Shailesh Mehta School of Management, which means IIT Bombay, MBA. Let's take a look at the placement report of IIT, one of the premier B schools in India. Actually, it's an engineering school which offers MBA as well, and the kind of people that go in this college also secure a percentile of somewhere around 98 or more in CAT, which means the overall group can be considered quite intellectual and at par with the top B schools, which are not the IITs, right? So let's take a look at IIT Bombay placement report. Very interesting report, in fact. We'll start with this thing, from the placement desk. I would just take your attention to two things. One, that 77% of the recruiters are returning recruiters, which definitely shows a lot of confidence of recruiters in the capability of IITs to deliver a good MBA program. And there are 11 new recruiters, which means new recruiters are also coming up. But the interesting thing is this thing, that more or less, they really do not have to hunt for new types of recruiters, and that's actually a very healthy thing. In fact, in the IIMs also we have seen that there have been many new recruiters. Now that doesn't mean that they are not able to retain recruiters. Of course, they have to cater to their really big size of the batch, which is not the case with IIT Bombay, because the size is smaller, which is 115, and I think 112 students only participated in the final placement process. But definitely, retention of recruiters that are giving you really high CTC, mean CTC, average CTC, and of course the highest CTC is a very interesting thing, and rather something which is reassuring. So if you get an opportunity to get into IIT Bombay for your MBA program, do not miss out on that opportunity. Let's take a look at the rest of the content. Another thing I would like you to focus on is that when I talk about the placement highlights, again, you would say that BFSI and consulting has actually dominated the space, which has been the trend in other placement reports also that we have analyzed. But there is one little thing I want you to see, the difference. Take a look at IT and e-commerce. 18% of the batch got into IT and e-commerce. And, isn't it interesting that the MBA jobs, the management jobs which require expertise in technology also, are coming into IIT, right, which is a technology school. If I compare this with the placement reports of other B schools that we have done so far, you can always check that in our YouTube channel, but that I think they around 4%, 5%, 6%, 7% was more or less the thing. Now when I say 4, 5, 6%, of course the batch size is higher in that case, but in general when I say that compared to batch size also the number of roles are limited. Here, of course, the number of roles are quite high. 18%, let's say 20% also. So 20% of a batch of 100 more, it's what, 20%, 20, 22 students and so on, which is a significant portion, right? That's what I want you to just take an attention to. So if you have an inclination towards jobs which are related to IT analytics, but in the space of marketing, and you get the opportunity to get into IIT Bombay, it's a good idea to take that opportunity up. Of course, you already know that the fee is quite reasonable, and as compared to that, if you get a median package of somewhere around 26 lakh per annum, isn't it interesting? So even if the fixed is say 2022 also, then also you are quite covered, right? Which is not the case with IIMs, because IIMs are quite costly. In fact, IIM Calcutta is the costliest one. But of course, it depends on what your aspirations are. So where you want to go and why. Another interesting thing that I found out was the average women's CTC is 29 lakh. Average women's CTC, so they have given a gender specific CTC also, is 29 lakh, but average CTC is 28 lakh, which shows that the gender disparity that was generally talked about, which was not in favor of women, is now happening. So there is no gender disparity now. For the sake of argument, I would say that women average CTC is higher than the average CTC. So we can talk about gender disparity, skewed in some other sense. The males probably are getting a bit of less, but I think this is a very reassuring thing, that in general you would be able to see that more or less everybody is getting the same pay package, and it is expected also. So when we think that students are coming into IIT Bombay, they have a specific percentile and they are aiming for similar kind of job roles, then of course the job roles should give similar kind of pay packages as well. which is reflected here. So probably that's why they are trying to show this thing, another healthy thing. PPO rate 47%, half of the batch is already placed. PPO rate simply shows excellence, which means what you teach, then what these guys do in their internship, and they finally get the PPO, pre-placement offer. So they really don't have to think about jobs in general. But another interesting thing, although 47% of the people got the PPO, still 112 students participated in the final placement offer out of a batch size of 115, which means even if you got PPO, you still did not take that PPO. Many of them did not take the PPO because they thought that maybe another better opportunity is there. And the opportunities were also abound. Now that's healthy. I mean, if this thing is not healthy, then what is, right? This also shows that people are slightly, more risk taking in terms of their placements, and that's absolutely fine. And the PPO average CTC is also somewhere around 30 lakh. So if a couple of people gave up on their PPO and they sat for their placements, I'm sure they must have thought about this thing that okay, if I don't want to go for a higher sort of a package, then maybe I'm getting a better role. And again, so when I talk about the role, another thing I would like to take your attention to would be this, the cyber security consulting. I'm seeing this in many placement reports nowadays. Cyber security, that's a very specific type of consulting. Now, when I am trying to see that thing in many placement reports, I'm not getting that, but in some of the placement reports, I do get that. But in IIT, it was expected and it is there. Because this is one role of consulting. Consulting requires a significant management acumen, but then you are talking about cyber security, which is quite technical. So that's an interesting thing, and I think in the growing sphere, the way India is growing in terms of the business sphere and the technology, the digital technology, I think this is one of the important things, and these kind of roles are going to open even more in future. These are some of the sector highlights. What type of organizations are coming? All these organizations are usual high level organizations. So it is not that they are just trying to showcase their placement report by showing you the numbers. Even the organizations are really good. So in a way, IIT Bombay, as expected, one of the great B schools. IIT Bombay, great B schools. So I am talking about SJMSOM School. So if you get the opportunity, definitely go ahead with that. The last thing I would like to talk about is this one. Where was it? Yes. The work experience split, because the batch profile is something which is interesting for us to note. Again, they also do not really engage a lot of freshers, right? So most of the people have some sort of work experience, and that work experience is falling between 1 and 3 years. 1 and 3 years is what? 40, 50, 60, 70, 75% of the batch is experienced batch. So in this space, it is quite homogeneous. But within that also, the domain split and educational split is quite interesting. Domains, again, 33% of the people are from IT, 21 from consulting, analytics, operations, sales and marketing, and engineering. Sales and marketing, of course, are limited, because then people go to sales and marketing. They don't come from sales and marketing in general, but they come from a lot of engineering backgrounds, because that is one of the key criteria for getting into IIT Bombay, that you should be either an engineer or from a technical background, or you should meet a similar kind of criterion. We'll talk about the criteria of IIT Bombay later on, but this is what the placement report looks like. So if I have to sum it up, I would say healthy placement report, very interesting, great college, and your future is absolutely secured, especially when you have to pay not so much of money. See you soon.